Okay, so this week, I know some of you already saw my agenda. I heard somebody talking about when the quiz was, and they were already looking. So this week in Honors Algebra 2, you're going to do Section 3.3, Day 1 today, Day 2 tomorrow. On Wednesday will be a review day. It's just going to be a blank review, and the key is posted, so that's going to be in class on Wednesday. No real homework other than to do that review. And then on Thursday when you come in, you will have your quiz over sections 3.1 to 3.3. Then on Friday, you will have section 3.4, day 1. Questions on the week? Okay, anybody who's absent, just because you guys were all here, so I don't need this class, but if anybody's absent in my 8th period class, there is the new seating chart. So give me a second to look at that. All right, next one. Any questions at all on the homework? You guys feel pretty good about this stuff?
Yeah.
How'd the solving ones go? Because those were the new ones from last night. You had to solve. So what did we do to solve? You had to isolate the x squared. What did you do to isolate the x squared? And when you subtracted 7, you got x squared equals what? Negative 54. Then what did you do? Take the what? And when you take the square root, that's where you got to remember to put what out front? Plus or minus. What did you guys break 54 up into such that one of them was a perfect square? 9 and 6. So put the negative with what? The 9. What's the square root of 9? Negative 9? 3i, square root of 6. So that was a big part of what we did on Friday. Any other questions? Okie dokie. So I will get your notes passed out to you. You guys, I don't know how to get that start mirroring. How do I get that off of there? Anybody know?
What happened?
That's start mirroring.
Oh, it's a restart. I'm no technician.
That's a restart. I don't know why it's there. It's driving me nuts. Okay, so you guys did this in Algebra 1, but I teach it like it's brand new to us again because you don't tend to remember it, okay? We are going to solve by completing the square. Okay, so I heard okay, I kind of at least remember the words completing the square, but I maybe have no idea what to do. Is that probably an accurate statement? That's right. Yep. All right, so completing the square. Looks like I had a couple ones here at the beginning. In previous classes, we have learned to solve by using the square roots. You isolate that x, that squared, and then take the square root of both sides. I don't love these problems, but they're getting us ready for completing the square. What they want you to do is to recognize that that left side is a perfect square trinomial. Okay, for example, A is 1, life is easy. What multiplies to give you 64 that adds to give you negative 16? Negative 8 and what? Negative 8. Does negative 8 and negative 8 multiply to give me 64 and add to give me negative 16? What's another way I can write x minus 8 times a quantity x minus 8? X minus 8 quantity squared. So when you see a problem like this and it says solve using square roots, first thing you should be doing is, I can't do solve using square roots when there's a b term. I can't do that. But maybe that left side is a perfect square trinomial. That means x minus 8 quantity squared. Now, how could I undo x minus 8 quantity squared? I could take the square root. When you do, what happens on the left? You're left with just what? X minus 8. What's the square root of 100? Careful. Plus or minus. What do you do now to get this all by itself? The 8x, you do what? Add 8. And if you remember, whenever we added 8, I always had you put this number first with the plus or minus number second. So I'm going to write 8 plus or minus 10. Because for whatever reason, you guys make stupid mistakes going from here to the two answers. So now you're going to do 8 plus 10 or 8 minus 10. What's 8 plus 10? 18. What's 8 minus 10? And there's your two answers. Okay. These are getting us ready to complete the square. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. You guys try B. Go. Kaden, what question did you ask yourself on this one? What?
Multiplies to 4 and adds to 4.
And what is it?
2.
So x plus 2 and...
X plus 2.
So a lot of you will skip that and you'll just come down and say what? X plus 2.
Square.
Okay, what did you do next?
Find the square root of each side.
And when you did, you got what?
X plus 2 plus or minus 6.
Perfect. Then what'd you do?
Subtract 2.
And how do I want you to write this?
X equals negative 2 plus or minus 6.
So it's either negative 2 plus 6 or negative 2 minus 6. Negative 2 plus or minus 6. What's negative 2 plus 6?
4.
Or
Negative 8.
negative 8. How'd you guys do? How'd you guys do on those? Good? Any questions? Okay, this is getting us ready to complete the square. Once I show you this, I think you'll probably remember. Completing the square. They write it a little bit differently than I did when I taught this. Okay? To complete the square, you're going to add half of the middle number. What's half of the middle number? And you're going to add 3 squared. Now, this red part is part you guys will never write again. What is 3 squared? 9. Now, what multiplies to give you 9 that adds to give you 6? 3 and 3. So what did that factor to? X plus 3 squared. You will go from here to here every time because that's the beauty of completing the square. It's always this and that quantity squared every single time. That's the beauty of completing the square. Half of the middle term, add that number squared. Okay? So, next part. Again, it doesn't say solve. It just says complete the square, then factor the trinomial. So let me show you. Complete the square. What are we going to take half of? What number are you going to take half of, Ava? 14. What's half of 14, Ava?
7.
And you're going to add what?
7 squared.
Add 7 squared. I do like to put that in parentheses, but you don't have to put 7 squared in parentheses. Now, back to the trinomial. You could go through that whole, okay, that'd be 49. What multiplies to give you 49 and adds to give you 14. 7 x plus 7 x plus. Or you could just factor it. What's it always going to be? It's just going to be what? This and this. So it's going to be what? Do you know?
X plus 7.
Quantity square. And you're done. Now, it doesn't say solve. It just says complete the square. We completed the square. Okay? Now, how's it change if I have a negative? Okay, well, it's very similar. So, Natalie, we're going to take half of what number?
-40.
What's half of -40?
-20.
So you still add, but you're going to add -20 squared. So that's the first part. Complete the square. I completed the square. Now factor it. So now, Natalie, when you factor, you're going to have this and this. So what is your factor going to be? Do you remember?
X -20.
X -20 quantity squared. Because we'd have to ask ourselves, what multiplies to give us positive 400 that adds to give us -40? And it'd be -20 and -20. Okay, you guys finish C and D. Go. Is C going to throw you out? Are these going to throw you out because of fractions? Okay. Some of y'all hate fractions. Just leave it as a fraction. No, you cannot do decimals. Because when you go to square each side and square root each side, you can't have a square root of a decimal. Because it's like having the square root of a fraction. And you can't have a square root of a fraction because then the denominator has a square root. So can't have a decimal. All right. Guys, don't. Karina. Ready? No, I'm yelling at that. Ready? Take half of 9. Just write it as 9/2. Guys, just leave it. Whoa, holy heck. Okay, just leave it. Just leave it as 9/2 squared. Leave it. That's a fraction. Now, if you have 4.5, okay. I don't like 4.5. I like 9/2 way better. You'll see why when we get to the solving ones. And now, Karina, what does this factor into?
X plus 9/2 squared.
X plus 9/2 quantity squared. Done. Okay? And how about the last one? Justin? What do you take half of?
3.
What's your sign?
-3.
And what's half of -3?
3/2.
-3/2 squared, right?
Yeah.
And now what does that factor into, Justin?
X minus 3/2.
Quantity.
Squared.
Done. Okay, is everybody okay so far? All right, now we're going to actually start solving, which is what I really, this is kind of the meat of the lesson. Solve by completing this square. You guys saw this exact same steps when you were in Algebra 1. Step 1, get all the variable terms on one side, get the constant on the other. See, anything that has an x over here, any constants over there. Step 2, as needed, divide both sides by a so that you have x squared term as 1x squared. You have to have 1x squared to complete the square. You cannot complete it if you have like 2x squared or 4x squared. Now, complete the square. We just did 4 of those. Add b/2 squared. But now we have an equation, so we know that whatever we do to one side, got to do the other. So we're going to add half of the middle term squared to each side. Factor, take the square root, and solve. That's what you did in the first examples. Watch. Step 1, x is on one side, constants on the other. You always want to rearrange these so that x squared is positive 1x squared. So which one am I going to move? Everybody. How do you move 12x over? So when you subtract it, you get what? X squared minus 12x. I'm going to leave some space. What is it equal to over here? You'll see why I left space in a second. So step 1, x is on one side, constant on the other. Step 2 is a1. A is 1, okay? Step 3, take half of the middle term. So now we're going to complete the square. That's what we just did. Take half of -12. It's half of -12.
-6.
And we're going to add -6 squared. But now I have an equation. So whatever I do to one side, got to do the other. Add -6 squared. Now, the left side, what does this factor into? We just did 4 of these. What does this factor into? X minus 6 quantity squared. Now, this right side is negative 20 plus negative 6 squared. What's negative 6 squared? 36. What's negative 20 plus 36?
16.
16. What's that?
What did you have to do with that?
Yeah. Whatever you do to one side, gotta do the other. All right. Now we're where we were on example 1 at the beginning of class. How do you undo that? Square root both sides. When you do, you get x minus 6. What do you put in front of this? What's the square root of 16? 4. What do you put in front of it? What do we do now to get x by itself? Add 6. And how have I told you a gazillion times to write this?
6.
6 plus or minus 4. Now take the... You guys will miss stupid points if you don't do this. This is 6 plus 4 or 6 what? What's 6 plus 4? What's 6 minus 4? Do you guys remember this? And I just remembered somebody asked me to turn my lights down today and I forgot. Or every day, and I'm going to forget. So y'all just got to remind me just a little bit, a couple notches. Is that even that better or more?
I didn't see it.
You didn't see a difference? Is that better or not? It's the same? Doesn't it make you getting tired if you go too low?
That's better.
Makes me sleepy. All right. Are we good here? Sorry, I forgot. Okay. Are we good on A? All right. Let's try B. Oh, I hear some deep sighs. Goodness graciousness. Jarrett, what are you going to do to start this one?
You can add 27 over,
And what else?
subtract 4x.
Yeah. So, guys, I know the quickest thing is to subtract x squared, but you don't want ax squared to be negative. So, Jarrett said, move the 4x over here, move the 27 over there. And when you do, Jarrett, how is this looking? X squared
Minus 4x equals 27.
equals positive 27. Is everybody okay with how he added the 27, subtracted the 4x? Okay, so you got your x's on one side, constant on the other. Is A1?
Yeah.
That's step 2, so we're good to go. Okay? Huh? Yo, talk to me. Is A1?
No, he's far. He's asking what the square root of 31 was.
Oh.
31.
All right, now we're ready to keep going, Jarrett. Ready?
Yeah.
Half a B.
Negative 2.
And you're going to add what?
Negative 2 squared.
Squared. Whatever you do to one side,
Do the other.
do the other. What does this side factor into?
X minus 2 squared.
What do you get over here? It's 27
Um,
plus 4.
31.
No solution.
There's a solution. Oh, there's none of these are going to be no solution. They're all solvable. All right, what do you do now?
Square root.
Square root. And so what do you have over here?
X minus 2.
What do you put out front?
Plus or minus.
Can you take, is it square root of 31 a perfect square? No. Can you break it up into any number such that one of them is a perfect square? So you just leave it as?
Square root.
Now what do you want to do to get the x by itself next?
Add 2 over.
Add 2. And when you add 2, what do you get?
2 plus or minus square root of 31.
And we're done. Always write it with the 2 and then the plus or minus second. How'd we do on that one? Any questions? All right, you guys try C. Ouch. You got this? Gorgeous day. 68 degrees. All right, Addie. What did you do first, Addie? And when you subtracted 7, you got that. Is A1. Yep, so now what are you going to do? Okay, what's half of negative 10? And you're going to add negative 5, whatever you add to one side, add to the other. Okay, what does this side factor into?
X minus 5 squared.
And over here, what do you get? 18. What do you do next? Square root. And now you get x minus 5 equals, what do you put out front?
Plus or minus
What'd you break 18 up into?
6 and 3.
But 6 and 3 aren't perfect squares.
9 and 2.
9 and 2. What's the square root of 9?
3.
So you have plus or minus 3 square root of 2. What are you going to do now?
Add 5.
And how should you write your final answer?
X equals 5 plus or minus 3 square root of 2.
Good. I want you guys to see, when do you work this out? You work it out when it's a perfect square. Do you see here? You had the square root of 16, which is 4. Then you're going to keep going and give me 2 whole numbers for answers. Okay? But here we can't go any further. All right, last one. Go. God bless you. I feel like the whole school's going on some field trip of some sort on Wednesday. All right, Miss Olivia, what'd you do first?
Subtracted the 5.
And when you subtracted the 5, you got x squared minus 18x equals,
Negative 5.
okay. And then you took half of, A is 1, which if you notice today, they're all 1. Tomorrow, we're going to introduce an A is not 1. Okay. And now take half of
18.
negative 18, which is what?
Negative 9.
And you're going to add
To both sides.
negative 9 squared. Okay, what do you get over here then? What does this factor into?
X minus 9 squared.
And what was negative 5 plus negative 9 squared?
Negative 76.
Shouldn't be negative 76 because you have negative 5 plus 81. right? So it's positive 76. Do you see how it's positive and not negative? Okay, now what are you going to do?
Take the square root.
Okay, and what did you break 76 up into? 4 and 19. And what's the square root of 4? 2 square root of 19. What do you do now?
Add the 9.
Add the 9. And how do you write your final answer, Olivia?
X equals 9 plus or minus 2 square root.
Okay, do you guys remember this a little bit from Algebra 1? I mean, we've added the element of simplifying radicals, but do you remember it a little bit?
Yeah.
No? Okay. Here's your homework. Have a fantastic night. You've got a little bit of time. 8 minutes. Some of them are just at the beginning.